We've just had the dev update for Season 5 New World, and there are some major things in here, and I'm quite excited about what they're delivering. A big change to Magnify, mounts in OPR, and much more. So let's jump in. The first thing that they actually lead with is not good news. That is the fact that the announcement that is coming in May, well, it's not actually going to be coming in May, it's going to be coming in June. Now, they don't specify why. My assumption is that that could mean a delay to the expansion or a delay to when console was supposed to actually come, and therefore they're just postponing the whole thing. Okay, makes sense. Delays are always a bit sad, but you know, it can't be helped. If they need it, they need it. We also got some information about the 10-man seasonal trial. Now, we had been asking them to actually make use of the soul trials. Now, we all thought that that would maybe be like a solo version or something like that. But what they're actually doing here is reworking some of the seasonal 4 set pieces and using them as a 10-man. Well, one in particular, which is the Winter Rune Forge, which I think might be one of the last bosses that you fight. There's going to be puzzles and all that kind of stuff. You can do this weekly for like major rewards, and then you're going to be able to do it daily for, I don't know what yet, but some kind of reward. It's a little bit weird to sort of bring us content that we've sort of semi-experienced and, you know, frame it as something new. But, you know, this was supposed to come in Season 4, and if it would have come in Season 4, it would have been a great idea. Now, it sort of just feels a bit like an afterthought, but you know what? I'm okay with it. There's also going to be some new artifacts. Now, they've actually listed these on the post rather than the video, so let's just go through them here. I mean, I think they are on the video as well, but they very briefly go over them. Here it's just a little bit easy and static, so let's just read it. There's going to be a hatchet called Sin. That's going to make it so that your debuffs that you apply work 25% longer, and that works on both weapons. You also get Defile, which is 2% more damage per debuff on the target. So you can see the vibe there, and that's a hatchet. There's going to be a Spear, which when I read this, I was like, well, I don't think that's very good. And it was basically heavy attacks with either weapon can cause poison damage, dealing 20% damage for 5 seconds. And I was thinking, you know what, that could maybe be good to use with a bow if you're not using Bolt Caster. Maybe. Probably some other, you know, genius out there will come up with a better plan. But alright. Then we have Tempest Fury, which is the Great Axe. I thought this was going to be spin to win, but I think they've actually changed it a little bit. Here they say that successful attacks gain 3% movement speed for 3 seconds. And that works on both weapons, and it stacks 10 times. That's like 30% extra movement speed if you hit all your attacks, which obviously you're probably not going to do that. Not in 3 seconds anyway, but you know, interesting. I sort of feel like we need less haste than more. But, you know, okay, fair enough. Then we have Nature's Wrath, which when I saw this, I was like, oh, this is going to be a healing thing. Nah, it's definitely not a healing thing. Empower expires 200% faster, but you deal 20% more damage. So I think it basically lasts half as long, your Empower, but you're going to do 20% more damage, which, you know, could be very spicy for quite a few builds, I think. We also have these heavy gloves, which I thought these were going to be the more you do a heavy, the more damage your heavy attacks do, but that's also not quite the thing here. So whenever you take damage, you gain a charge that increases the damage of your next attack by 3%. Now that is going to be very interesting for some tanky builds. Any kind of heavy armor user here is probably going to want to use maybe this if they want to do damage as well. You get in a clump, you're going to get a lot of hits on you, maybe in a war. Not that I really ever do wars or anything like that these days, but if you get in a war, you're going to get hit a lot, and then boom, 30% extra in your next attack. Especially if that is a heavy attack and it connects, then, you know, with Serenity or something, ooh, you could be really pumping. This next one, I don't really see the use of that much, but, you know, I need to watch Macro's video of actually telling me if it's worth this or not. And that's when you're not, it's some heavy legs, but when you're not in the heavy loadout, you gain 20% health. Now, is that going to be better than Abyss? I don't know. I just said Abyss, I meant the Dark Void plate, not Abyss. Abyss is, you know, the Great Axe. What am I thinking? You have some light boots, which gives you ambush, which is dealing 15% more damage and 25% critical chance as long as you haven't hit a target within 20 seconds. Now, I spoke about the poison one, maybe with the bow. I could definitely see a long range weapon like the musket or something like that making use of this, especially in Outpost Rush where you're just popping people. Could be exciting. Well, depending on what end you're on. If you're on the bullet receiving end, maybe not that exciting. And then there's a new amulet, which I sort of feel will become a lot of people's default amulets just by, you know, how powerful it was on the hatchet. But when you receive lethal damage, you avoid death and you become invulnerable for 2 seconds. Now, it does only trigger once every 3 minutes, but either way, like, it's a free life that you wouldn't already have had. So that could be very, very strong. And it's on the amulet sort. So, you know, you either take Ankh if you gain some heals, or you take Endless Thirst if you're a lone wolf, or you take Endless Stopwatch if you're a CC machine. Then you have this one where it's like, hey, I just don't want to die. All of them very interesting. Now, before we talk about the next thing, there's going to be some new season stuff, a new season pass, etc. We get that every season. Nothing too amazing there. One thing that they did speak about, but they didn't really show too much of, is the cooking changes, and they say other trade skill changes. Basically, they're going to simplify cooking. So if there's like a tier 3, strength and dex food, I don't actually know if that exists, then it's going to be all of the primary stats. There's probably some smart people right now probably already trying to make money doing that. I'm not going to recommend it because I don't know what the tips would be, but there'll be some people trying to do that. Now, one huge thing that they do talk about, but it's sort of quite difficult to demonstrate, is the fact that we are now going to get the upgraded combat and animation system. Now, what does this mean? How does we feel about this? We don't really know, right? But basically, it's the underlying code that is getting changed. They say that they've done their best to try and replicate the way that it was, so we're going to have to actually try it and see how it feels. They said, we're not really that interested if it feels different, we want to know if it feels worse. So some things are going to feel different, and if there's something worse, then they're going to try and correct that. It's really interesting that they're doing this. What they do also say is that it's going to help them actually identify problems. So I feel like it might help them identify exploits, but maybe that's not the intent. But anything that's really strong, things that are breaking, they think they'll be able to fix them a little bit easier and that kind of stuff. So this is a huge one, but very hard to demonstrate, in a video. When I get my hands on it, I'll sort of give you, the way that I feel about it. Another huge one is the controller support, and they do a lot of showing off of the UI in the video, so I'll sort of try and put some of the footage up, but there's a couple of interesting things that are important there. First and foremost, there's only going to be 2 preset controller layouts, and you actually can't remap the controller as of the release. That's something that's going to be coming down the line. It's something they wanted, but again, that's sort of unfortunately a little bit delayed. And then back here, let me show you this. So on this page, they've got a couple of different things that are going to sort of help with control. Now, the big one here is aim assist. It looks like that they have walked back the idea that aim assist will work in PvP if you're using a controller. Now it says AI only. However, then you realize that the aim assist is probably not going to work against AI, but what will work is this target friction. Now, you people who play console shooters will know the difference here. Aim assist will basically move your controller and follow a target, and that's only usable if you're using a controller, and it's only usable against AI. But target friction, what this does is that it slows your cursor down, and that's going to be interesting. We'll see how strong that is. So basically, let's say you're moving your cursor. As soon as you mouse over an enemy, your cursor will sort of slow down, so it's harder to move away and off of them, which means it's easy to aim, basically, because it's quite difficult on a controller to get to the precise movements, and by the time you do that, they've already moved away. So this will be really interesting. My instinct is that this is probably the right decision, and I don't think it'll make controller super strong, because this is going to work in PvP. But no, I actually don't think it'll be that bad, because there's nothing automatically happening. It's just sort of a little bit of a help. In theory, if you're on PC, you could sort of trigger something where you could change your DPI if you really wanted, but that'd be too much hard work for me. But that's what's happening. And the next one's a major one, and it's the enemy target lock-on. Now, it's worth noting that this is only for AI. You can't do this with players, because that would drastically change the game. But it does work on controller and on PC. So if you're in a dungeon, you can just press the target, and what it's basically going to do is your enemy's going to stay on the screen, and you're just going to the camera's going to move and follow them. It doesn't mean that you can't get hit by stray attacks or anything like that. It's not like the enemy is doing the same to you. But that's the intended plan. That will help in PvE, especially with controller. Might help in PvE without, but I don't really think it'll make that big of a difference, personally. If it was in PvP, it'd be completely different. Then this next one, I don't really understand. It doesn't, by default, it's off for keyboard and mouse. I said PC, I meant keyboard and mouse. So basically, what this does is that you can move and your camera doesn't move with you. You'd be familiar with this with other games. You'll move left and right and up, forward and back, but you'll move the camera with the right analog stick. Sort of like a lot of shooters, I think. I've not explained that very well, because I think that's not quite how it's going to work, but it's hard to envision these by just reading the text. You can turn that on and off, not a problem. There's also going to be another one which could actually be major, which is the use camera direction for melee attacks. Now, at the minute you attack, where you're aiming, what you could do is attack where your character is aiming. So basically with the previous one, I think you can sort of be aiming off the screen and still be attacking that way. Well, I think that's very difficult to do on PC, mouse and keyboard. And then yeah, there's a couple of changes to the UI. Now, one thing that they did talk about was that they have now finally finished the MSQ. That's going to be fully updated, and there's going to be a way of doing Isabella on your own if you don't want to do any expeditions. However, the group finder makes getting an expedition like way easier, and I think that's a fantastic change. But this is good. I don't think many people should go out and do the whole story yet. I sort of feel like we might get fresh when we get console, but if you want to go out and do the story, go ahead. If you're like really bored, crack on. One big one, which is sort of a little bit weird, big shout out to Trick. Trick sort of put this down and I was like, I don't really see where this is coming from, but we sort of wanted it because it sort of felt better on the PTR, and that is that mounts are going to be enabled in Outpost Rush. Now, when I say it felt better, we'll have to wait and see how it feels. We only did it on the PTR. Let's see how this feels once it hits live. They claim that they removed it for technical limitations, so you know, maybe they have fixed those technical limitations with this combat rework. Either way, it's exciting. And two huge things they sort of waited right till the end to mention, and that is a respecking fee is going from 200 gold to 50 gold. That's going to absolutely change the gold sync, because apparently it was like 12% of the gold sync, and now it's being reduced by, you know, I don't know the percentage, it's a quarter of what it was. So in theory, it'd only be 3% of the gold sync. I know percentages don't work like that, don't at me. And then another change is with Magnify. Magnify, I think this is a good enough change, right? But maybe, you know, you let me know what you think. For Magnify, you're going to be able to make it so that it's like stuck in a specific attribute. However, that works for all of your Magnify, so keep that in mind. But you can make it so that all your Magnify counts to strength or all your Magnify counts to con, no matter what you change. That won't help if you're like a healer becoming a tank or something like that, but ultimately I think that's a temporary, probably maybe even a permanent solution to that problem at this point. You can do that. It sort of makes it so that you can do whatever build you like, as long as you've not got too much Magnify. Like if all of your stuff was Magnify, you might not be able to go below a certain threshold in a certain category, but I don't really think that's a big issue personally. Some pretty big changes there. I think mostly positive. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. For now, have a most beautiful day. Big shout out to my Patreons. Much love to you guys. Come and follow me, watch me over on Twitch. I stream pretty much every day, and we'll be streaming this. Oh, one thing I didn't mention is the PTR goes live on February 14th. So if you're looking forward to spending time with your loved ones, forget it. Have a beautiful day. Goodbye.